Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. Thanks a lot for your support. I was very surprised. The first video on my first week of ownership of the Sealion 7 had a lot of views and a lot of feedback and comments as well. So today I'll be doing a little bit of an interesting one. I'm doing more follow-up questions from all the comments. I know there was a lot of questions that I didn't address, particularly in that review. So today I kind of noted down some of those questions, and I hope to kind of go through and give you a little bit more insights. I'm not too sure if I'll be able to cover everything, but yeah, continue to leave me any more questions and I'll try my best to answer those. So let's get started. So the first question I had was, why did I compare the Sealion 7 with the older version of Model Y and not the recently launched Model Y? Well, so here's the thing. I actually put in an order, or I was looking for a new car in the January 2025 timeframe in Singapore. So the Sealion 7 was, going through the pre-order and pre-launch, and at that moment there was no new Model Y announced. Interestingly enough, the moment I put an order in, I think it was a week or two after that, that's when the pre-order for the Model Y, the new Model Y, was announced. So hence, I didn't actually have too many opportunities to actually try out the new Model Y. But having said that, like I mentioned in my previous video, I did actually try the existing or the current model of Model Y, and there was really no comparison between both the cars. From a value perspective, from a build perspective, the BYD beats it in all areas. But we spoke a lot about software, and I'm going to touch a little bit about software also because there was a lot of questions. That's the only area where I thought BYD was lacking, and there's room for improvement. So the next question was around rear view visibility. So one of the comments was that, hey, you know what, based on the video that you put out the previous time, it seems like the rear view didn't seem like much. Hopefully, I can give you a sneak peek of video of the rear view, or rather my rear view mirror view. But you're right, to a certain extent. I came from driving a Honda Odyssey, which had a massive rear view. The Sealion 7 actually have a pretty limited rear view mirror and space because of the sloping fastback. But having said that, I realized it was largely sufficient in most cases, and with all the bells and whistles like anti-blind spot monitors and also the additional cameras that come out on screen, I didn't feel that I was missing a whole lot with a tiny rear view mirror. So, but again, it's a matter of preference. I thought I would miss it because I use the rear view mirror a lot, but yeah, didn't think it affected me too much. Next question that came up a lot was actually the onboard camera. As you can probably tell by Googling, there's a lot of the BYD models that are sold in the region, be it the Seal or Atto, doesn't actually come with onboard camera. And likewise, the Sealion doesn't come with an onboard camera. But having said that, the Seals, the Attos, and including the Sealion, you can tell there was actually a provision for it. So there's a little cap that caps it at the front, and you could actually install a camera. So the other question was that, can then the Seal or Atto camera be fitted into the Sealion? The quick answer to that is probably no, because I've read a couple of forums everywhere else. It seems that the Sealion uses a completely different connector. Because of that, the Atto and Seal cameras doesn't necessarily fit. Also, if you did get the camera that the Sealion uses, the other question and challenge with the release in the region is that the fact that there is no SD card slot. Without the SD card slot, the camera is literally useless in most cases. So I've also seen some forums where this guy has actually installed the Sealion specific camera, but without the SD card slot, the camera didn't even get detected. So if you look at some of the videos of Seal and Atto, the moment you plug in the onboard camera, they would have a new recording app that comes out on the console or the infotainment system, but that didn't happen with the Sealion 7. So I think it was a very deliberate move to actually remove the support for our region with regards to onboard camera. So what is the cost of road tax and insurance in Singapore specifically? For me, the road tax for the Sealion 7, it's about 2,200-ish dollars, Sing dollars. In terms of insurance, it really varies from provider to provider. In Singapore, obviously the NCD bonus, as well as your age, your past history, etc., etc. So I'm not going to comment on that, but like I said, the road tax is about 2.2K. If you kind of compare that with the equivalents of the new Model Y, I believe it's about 3,000-ish for the Cat B model. I know Model Y now has got a Cat A, which is probably cheaper, about 1,700. But net of it is that it's about 3,000 bucks. Next question. How is the audio system on the car? So let me just get straight to it. The audio system is decent when it works. So let me rephrase myself. So if you're using it for Spotify or Android Auto or just playing videos in general, it's more than sufficient. It's a decent sound system, but by no means audiophile quality. The FM transmitter or receiver, it's not very good. So if you are driving through certain patches and you get bad signal, you get a muffled or mono sound coming through the audio system. So that's the only gripe with regards to the audio system. But by and large, I would say for a stock standard car, it's actually not too bad. But yeah, I think it would probably satisfy 90% of the people or 95%. For those true audiophile, I guess you would know that it will never cut it. So Sealion 7, it's a hungry beast. What's the consumption like? So there's a lot of talk about Sealion consuming a lot of energy and power per kilowatt hour per 100 kilometers. And the quick answer to that is it's probably, there's some truth to it. It's part because the car is extremely heavy compared to your equivalent Model Ys. So for me, everybody's come to me and say, hey, you know what, there's various ways of calculating. It's not accurate to look at the screen, but I've kind of, did a bit of a permutation. So my utilization is between 16 kilowatt hours to maybe 17 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers in city driving. So if I draw the comparison against what's advertised for Model Y, which is about 15 plus kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, it's not too bad for city driving. But having said that, I haven't had the opportunity to go long distance on the North-South Highway, perhaps in Malaysia. So I reckon the consumption on if you're going down a highway stretch perpetually 100 kilometers or 110, that would potentially be a little bit more, much higher, I guess, the consumption against a Model Y equivalent. So the next one, it's the touchy topic around software. Let me just read this question. So a lot of people speculate or I put in the comments that, hey, you know what, BYD doesn't invest much into software anymore. Some mention that they're focusing on their God's Eye equivalent, that hence, they won't focus on the existing cars. And some even mention that previous models hasn't have any update for a while. And even when they had updates, it was for very minor and very basic bug fixes. Here's my take on software updates. I've been in tech for a long time and also, sold software and worked with software providers. Let's get this very clear. Software updates in any software, I don't really think it's a car thing or BYD specific thing or anybody for that matter. It's just that do not expect the providers to bring up net new features like in every release. There may be, most of the time it's bug fixes and basic small, little bitty fixes in most cases. If you get lucky, you get a nice new feature. But by and large, most software providers leave that for a complete version refresh. If you look at your typical Mac OS or iPhone OS, iOS, it's the same thing. You get little tweaks, within that same release. Let's say you're on iPhone's, iOS 10 or whatever the version is today. You 10.1, 10.2. There's not too much changes. Usually just small fixes. But if you go up one major release, that's where the changes happen. So I think people who are invested in BYD needs to be a little realistic in terms of what to expect in OTA updates. Do not be too consumed over the fact that, hey, you know what, I don't have this net new feature, etc., etc. I think I'm quite sure they'll get tons and tons of requests coming in every other day, every other month. So I think they just want to prioritize those around safety and security rather than, you know, the high and lofty fairy type features that you know, everybody wants. So there was also a question around digital key. Have I actually tried the digital key? So actually I have tried the digital key. I registered my digital key with my Android device. I use a Samsung S22 Plus, and my wife actually uses an iPhone. So I registered it using my iPhone, and then I shared the key with an iOS. So it's good to know that the key actually works on both Android and iOS. And yeah, I haven't had too much issues with it at the moment. There was a few times I've not used carry my physical key and just rocked up with my phone and then managed to start the car, lock the doors. Yeah, no dramas. It works pretty well. And the best part of it, it works across the two major phone operating systems as well. So there were some reviewers that mentioned that they noticed the Sealion 7 had what they call an off-pedal acceleration. And did I experience that? The definition of off-pedal acceleration is the moment you let your feet off the pedal, the car continues to accelerate. I can imagine how that can be very scary in most cases, but I'm glad to report, yeah, I haven't had any of those experiences, so I'm not too sure that they have fixed it or it was just one-off occurrence, but definitely from my point of view, I've not experienced it at all. So given the car weighs over 2.2 tons, how did I find the drive? So by and large, the car actually drives like a sedan, or rather a typical SUV, if you like. I didn't necessarily feel the weight of the car. Again, the car has a mode where you can change the steering feel and also the braking feel. So you can change it from comfort to sports, which gives the steering a little bit more of tightness or heaviness, akin to what you would like typical continental SUV. You want, you know, I mean, it gives a very sure feel on the highway if you like that feel. Or you can go in comfort, which is more like a traditional Japanese car. So I like to kind of move around the city and zip along the city. So I like the lightness of the steering. But again, I've also tried the sports, which is quite nice. It's flexible in that sense. So did I feel it? Difficult drive? Not really, not at all. So the next one is interesting. Are Chinese cars reliable and can we trust BYD? I like to think that the largest EV manufacturer in the world, they know a thing or two about making cars. And I mean, in recent time, most of the stuff they use and consume are made in China anyway. And to be fair, the Teslas are made in China. So yeah, I think there's variants of, you know, what the quality levels are. There are good made in China stuff and there's high end and made in China stuff. So I think you need to make the assessment. I personally have feel the car out, you know, tested it, and I think it's pretty well made. Again, don't take my word for it. Drop by a nearest showroom, you know, check it out for yourself and make that assessment. So the last question is an interesting one. This was brought to my attention that the HDB multi-story car parks in Singapore has a weight limit for the car at a maximum of 2,000 kg. So yeah, it's interesting. I did a little bit of research about this, and it turns out that indeed there was a 2,000 kg limit on commercial vehicles, but because in the past there was not so much, or rather not too many cars that were above 2,000 kgs in terms of passenger cars, so it was never completely clear. As I read more into it, the limitation was also because they didn't want commercial vehicles with the extended length to be parked in HDB car parks and, you know, causes issues and safety concerns. I still don't actually have a clear answer whether passenger cars above 2,000 kgs are allowed in HDB car parks. I have seen, I mean, not just EVs, other cars that are above 2,000 kgs, you know, the likes of the X7s or, you know, even Humvees or, you know, large S-classes in HDB car parks before. And they are above 2,000 kg. So yeah, I think it's a bit of a gray area. If you are in doubt, you know, best to kind of park in an open air car park. But the reason also is because they mentioned before the 2000 kg limit is because of structural integrity, etc., etc. I'll do a little bit more research and I'll keep you guys posted if I hear anything. But at this juncture, I would like to think if it's a big issue, you know, knowing Singapore, it probably be in the news already. You know, a lot of EVs are going to hit that limit at some point. But yeah, I'll get back to you guys once I hear anything concrete or interesting on that. So that's all the questions I have for this round. Keep those questions coming. I'll try my best to answer it, but hopefully it's provided you a little bit more additional context if you're still looking to get the new Sealion 7. So thanks again for the support. Continue to subscribe, like and share if you think it's useful, and I'll see you guys in the next one.